We've already talked about cruising and how boats are back online, ready to set sail. That's not the only way folks can give themselves a break and get out of Dodge. Joining us with summer travel tips is our travel expert, Jeanenne Tornatore. Good to see you again.
Great to be here.
The last time we spoke, this is all about kind of local travel, how to explore your state, your region, as it were. But now people really are getting itchy feet. They want to expand. So where would you say are some of the hot spots that people are trying to get away to?
Well, yeah, all signs indicate that summer travel is just going to be bigger than ever this year. And really, we're seeing that most of the bookings and the demand is for beach destinations and outdoor destinations, places around some of the bigger national parks. We are expecting most people are going to still stay domestic this year, which I think is why you're seeing so much demand in these U.S. hotspots like beaches and outdoor mountain escapes.
So I guess you have to walk before you can run. So not a whole lot of transatlantic travel, are we hearing? Are people booking trips to Europe? Are they feeling safe right now? I know that you say that they want to stay pretty much domestic for now, but
Well, the news really just came out that the European Union, those 27 countries, are welcoming vaccinated travelers back. So I think when we get a little farther into summer, we will see more people starting to look into that and take advantage of that. But it's such new news right now that I think folks that have already started planning their summer vacations, we're just playing it safe based on the fact that up until now we hadn't heard that news. So I do certainly think you're going to see demand for international travel really start to grow as well.
And we would talk about the European Union, countries like France, Italy, Germany, places like that. So are we hearing, what is your thought on traveling to those destinations? Does it seem fairly safe? Are you familiar at all with any of the rates in those countries?
Well, I think that, obviously the rates in those countries are starting to drop, which is why they feel comfortable welcoming travelers back, vaccinated travelers, I should add. I think that it's one of those things where people are really going to have to take a hard look at what is your comfort level. A lot of people are vaccinated and feel more comfortable going to those. One thing I think travelers really do have to keep in mind is that even though we are seeing a lot of places open back up, is that it's important to still really keep in mind that you're going to need to research what those safety protocols are. There still are restrictions and protocols in place, not just on the international side, but within the US as well. And for folks who are traveling international, you have to remember that, anyone coming back into the United States has to have a negative COVID test before they can board a flight into the US, even if you are a US citizen. So it's just knowing and researching what those nuances are going to be for things like international travel.
Oh, that is interesting. How about other places besides Europe? If people want to say head to some of the Asian countries or Australia for that matter, is it pretty much the same rule of thumb?
Yeah, it is. It's really, you're going to have to do your research kind of on a country by country basis to kind of find out what their protocols are and what is open and what is still restricted. I can say for closer to home, Mexico and the Caribbean are going to be big hotspots this summer. Folks have already been traveling to those destinations, and we've even seen the airlines, adding more flights to the Caribbean, to Mexico, and putting those, bigger, larger capacity airliners flying to some of these destinations, anticipating more demand for those places heading into the summer season. Another thing that's interesting with the airlines and suppliers really kind of planning for this travel demand this summer, we've actually seen the major airlines adding more direct routes to actually smaller destinations in these outdoor places that are close to national parks. So places like Vail, Aspen, Crested Butte, Colorado. They've been adding more nonstop flights to these destinations, anticipating people really taking those outdoor escapes as well.
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to ask you about airline travel, and I have a couple more questions in regards to that, but we do need to take a break. So when we come back, Jeanenne Tornatore, don't go anywhere. Jeanenne Tornatore, she's our guest. She's a travel expert. We've been talking about summer travel and what's on the itinerary for a lot of Americans. And Europe, not so much. You're saying more Mexico, Caribbean, but you also said that airlines are adding some flights. And we know that the airlines hit pretty hard last year because air travel was just put at a complete standstill. But what are some of the protocol that people still need to keep in mind before they board a flight if you haven't done so in the last 12, 13 months?
Yeah, well, for most of the U.S. destinations, it's still mandated masks on the flights. I think that's been extended through September at this point. So anyone, you'll need to have your mask on your flight. You'll also need to be aware for some places like the Hawaiian Islands, you still have to provide a negative COVID test to get on a flight to those destinations. So even within the United States, you really need to check and make sure that you're following those protocols. The best thing to do is when you go to book your flight is check on what your specific airline protocols are, but also look to find out what's happening in the destination. One thing I think a lot of people are really what's driving their travel to some of these destinations are major new attractions that have opened in the last year or opening this year. And there's a lot of anticipation around those. You have the theme parks like Disney and Universal with their new coasters and new attractions this year. You also have these major outdoor destinations, places like Colorado. They just opened this past year the new U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum in Colorado Springs. They have now the longest single track mountain bike trail in the US that's debuting this summer, new routes on their luxury train line like the Rocky Mountaineer. So I think there are a lot of these attractions in these destinations that are really going to be highly anticipated this summer.
Yeah, let's talk about Disneyland. So now they're finally open, but I want to talk, we have 1 minute left, cost. Disneyland, one of the most expensive theme parks out there. But as far as the rest of it, hotels, gas prices going up, is cost going to be somewhat prohibitive for a lot of people? And
Well,
when
I
should
think
people start booking their trips? Is it too late?
Yeah, it's not too late, but I will say book now because this is not the summer to look for those last minute deals. We've had those fantastic deals for people that have traveled in this last year when travel was, extremely down and you got used to these really low rates. Things are going to get back to normal. And even beyond that, airlines and car rentals in particular, really, I think where people are going to be spending their money this summer. So for those taking a road trip, that's good news. You can still find good availability in hotels. But again, those hotspot destinations, you're really going to kind of need to look out and make sure that you're booking as soon as possible. The other thing I would mention is that, you mentioned places like Disneyland, but even campgrounds, even these local attractions, all are still requiring reservations. Places that didn't used to do that, but in the age of COVID, that is still one of those protocols. So make sure, especially in those hotspots, you're booking those reservations now.
Jeanenne, thank you so much. Great advice.
My pleasure.
Get out there, travel, see the world. Thank you so much. We're back after this.